The hall was silent except for the faint sound of footsteps. A crowd had gathered in the old training chamber, its stone walls holding memories of countless challenges from the past. In the center stood Mira, her eyes sharp, her hand firm as she held the blade. Across from her was Aaron, calm and steady, as if nothing in the world could disturb him. Mira raised the blade higher, her voice steady. She wanted to show strength in front of everyone. "Any last words?" she asked. The room held its breath. Aaron did not flinch. Instead, a smile appeared on his face. He looked at the blade she was holding and spoke softly. "Yeah, you're holding it wrong." A wave of whispers ran through the crowd. Mira's grip tightened. She was known for her confidence, and no one ever questioned her skill. But Aaron's words were different. He was not mocking, nor was he afraid. He was pointing out something that only a true observer could see. Mira frowned, but did not lower the blade. She wondered if he was trying to trick her. Aaron, however, remained calm. His eyes met hers, steady and clear, like a teacher correcting a student. The chambermaster, an older man named Leon, stood by the side, watching carefully. He had seen many challenges, but this one was different. There was no anger here, no desire to harm. There was something deeper. It was as if both Mira and Aaron were not fighting each other, but testing something greater. Mira shifted slightly, considering his words. She looked at the blade in her hand. Could it be true? Her grip was strong, but perhaps not balanced. Aaron had always been precise with details. She remembered the times she had seen him practicing alone, carefully adjusting his stance and grip until it looked flawless. "Do you think you know better than me?" she asked, her voice carrying both challenge and curiosity. Aaron smiled again. "It's not about better. It's about what is right. The way you hold it now, the blade will slip when pressure comes. But if you adjust just a little, you will have control." The audience leaned in closer. Some nodded, realizing he might be right. Others waited to see if Mira would listen. Mira felt a spark of frustration, but also curiosity. She had always been praised for her talent, yet Aaron's words struck with quiet truth. Slowly she lowered the blade, not in defeat, but in thought. The silence grew heavier, as if the air itself waited for her choice. She tried holding it the way Aaron suggested, shifting her grip, steadying her stance. To her surprise, the blade felt lighter, as if it had become a part of her arm. Her eyes widened slightly. Aaron had been correct. Leon stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "Skill is not only in strength. It is also in wisdom. Mira, you have talent, but Aaron has shown you a truth. The question is, can you accept it?" The words sank deep into the room. Mira looked at Aaron again, this time not as an opponent, but as someone who carried knowledge she had not yet understood. Aaron bowed slightly, a gesture of respect, not victory. "I did not come here to defeat you," he said gently. "I came here to share what I learned. The blade is not for pride. It is for discipline." The audience shifted, whispers filling the chamber once more. Some were surprised by his calmness, others by his bravery. Mira lowered the blade completely now, her hand trembling slightly. She had expected a fight of strength, but instead she found herself facing a lesson in humility. In that moment, something changed inside her. She did not feel humiliated. Instead, she felt challenged in a new way, a deeper way. The chamber was not just a place of practice, but a place of growth. And Aaron had just shown her that growth was more than winning. Mira stepped back, her voice quieter now. "Maybe I was holding it wrong," she admitted, her eyes fixed on the blade. Aaron simply nodded. "Then this is only the beginning." The chamber doors closed slowly as the crowd murmured with excitement. They had not witnessed a duel, but something far more important. Mira and Aaron had started a path that would test not only their skills, but their understanding of themselves and each other. And though no one knew it yet, this single moment would lead to trials greater than either of them had ever imagined. The next morning, Mira walked through the quiet garden behind the chamber. The sun was rising, painting the sky with shades of gold and soft pink. She carried the blade in her hand, not as a weapon, but as a reminder of the lesson she had received the day before. Her mind was full of questions. Why had Aaron spoken the way he did? Why had he chosen not to fight but to teach? She had spent years training to prove herself, yet in a few calm words he had shaken her confidence and opened a door she never knew existed. As she walked, she noticed Aaron sitting under a tree. He was practicing again, his movements slow and precise. Each step flowed into the next as if he were part of a quiet dance. He did not see her at first, but when he looked up, his calm smile returned. "You're awake early," he said. Mira nodded, trying to sound steady. "I could not sleep. Yesterday kept replaying in my mind." Aaron lowered his practice blade. "What part?" "The part where you corrected me," Mira admitted. "I was sure I was strong, but strength was not enough. You showed me that." Aaron stood and walked closer, his tone gentle. "Strength has its place, but control matters more. A blade can slip, a hand can shake, but focus will guide you. That is what I try to learn every day." Mira looked at his hands. They were not large or rough, but steady and firm. She realized that his skill did not come from force, but from patience. For the first time, she felt curious rather than defensive. "Will you show me?" she asked softly. Aaron's eyes brightened, but he did not boast. He simply nodded. "If you are willing to learn, I will share what I know." They moved to the open field where the morning breeze brushed the grass. Aaron handed her a practice blade and adjusted his stance. "First," he said, "hold it with balance, not with tightness. Imagine the blade is not separate from you but part of your hand." Mira tried, but her grip was stiff. Aaron noticed and gently corrected her fingers. "Relax. If you hold too hard, your arm will tire. If you hold too loose, you will lose it. The balance is between both." She followed his words, and slowly the blade felt easier to move. Her steps began to match his, and though she stumbled at times, Aaron encouraged her. "Every stumble teaches you. Do not hide from mistakes. Use them." For the first time, Mira felt her body move with the blade instead of against it. The rhythm was strange but also exciting. She realized that skill was not about showing others, but about finding control within herself. As they practiced, Leon, the chamber master, appeared from a distance. He watched quietly, his wise eyes following every movement. He had hoped Mira would learn from the encounter, but he did not expect her to seek guidance so soon. Seeing her practice with Aaron made him smile faintly. After a while, Mira lowered her blade, breathing heavily. Sweat covered her forehead, but her eyes were shining. "It feels different," she said. "Like I am not just moving, but listening." Aaron nodded. "That is the beginning of true skill. The blade listens to you and you listen to yourself." Mira looked at him, puzzled but thoughtful. His words sounded simple, yet they carried meaning she wanted to uncover. She realized that Aaron was not just skilled with the blade. He had a way of seeing beyond the surface. The morning practice ended and the two walked back to the chamber. The crowd from yesterday was not there, but whispers had already spread. People were curious. Why had Mira, the proud and confident one, chosen to train with Aaron? Inside, Leon called them both. His voice was calm but serious. "Mira, Aaron, what you began yesterday has already stirred the chamber. Many want to know what it means. Some are curious, others doubtful. You must be ready, for this is only the start." Mira exchanged a look with Aaron. She had come to him out of curiosity, but now she felt the weight of something larger. Aaron, however, seemed unshaken. "We are ready to learn," he said simply. Leon's gaze rested on both of them. "Then understand this. What you carry now is not just about skill. It is about trust, patience, and a path that will test more than your hands. It will test your hearts." Mira felt a shiver. She had thought yesterday was only about her grip on the blade. Now she realized it was about much more. And though she was unsure of what lay ahead, she felt a spark of determination. Aaron stood tall beside her, his calm presence steadying her doubts. The journey had only begun, but both of them sensed it would change everything. Days passed and Mira continued to train with Aaron. Every morning she met him in the open field behind the chamber, where the grass bent gently under the soft wind. At first her steps were heavy and her movements stiff, but with each day she began to feel lighter. She noticed how Aaron never rushed her. He corrected her gently, guiding her hand when it slipped, showing her how to breathe and reminding her that the blade was not just about power, but about rhythm. Mira often thought about her past training. In the chamber, she had always been praised for being fast and strong. Others admired her for her confidence. But standing beside Aaron, she realized there was a world of learning she had missed. It humbled her, yet it also gave her hope. One morning, as she practiced a sequence of steps, she stumbled and almost dropped the blade. Frustration rose quickly, but before she could scold herself, Aaron spoke. "Do you see what happened?" Mira sighed. "I lost balance again." Aaron shook his head lightly. "No, you lost focus. Your mind ran ahead of your body. The body listens when the mind is calm." His words struck her more deeply than she expected. She had always believed that mistakes were signs of weakness, but Aaron was teaching her that mistakes were lessons, not failures. She tried again, moving slower this time, and found her step steadier. From a distance, others in the chamber began to notice their training. Some whispered that Mira had lowered herself by practicing with Aaron, who was never known for showy victories. Others believed she was growing stronger because she had chosen to learn instead of cling to pride. Mira heard the whispers but tried to ignore them. She cared more about what she was learning than what others thought. One afternoon, Leon called them both into the main hall. The room was wide and filled with light from tall windows. The air was quiet, yet it carried a weight of expectation. Leon's face was calm but serious. "You have practiced together for several days," he said. "Now it is time to see how much you understand." Mira's heart quickened. She thought he would ask her to fight Aaron again, but Leon shook his head. "Not against each other. You will face the trial of mirrors." The trial of mirrors was known among the chamber students. It was not a fight with another person, but a test within a hidden hall where walls were polished like glass. The reflections played tricks on the eyes, and only those with patience and focus could find their way out. Many had entered, but only a few had succeeded. Mira felt a shiver of both fear and excitement. She looked at Aaron, who remained calm as always. "The trial does not test the blade," Aaron explained quietly. "It tests the heart." The next morning they stood before the entrance of the trial hall. The large wooden doors creaked open and a soft glow came from within. The crowd gathered outside, waiting to see if they would succeed. Mira tightened her grip on her blade, not for battle but for balance. As they stepped inside, the doors closed behind them. At once Mira was surrounded by countless reflections. Her own face stared back at her from every wall. Each step echoed strangely, as if the mirrors themselves were speaking. She felt a wave of unease, but Aaron's voice broke through. "Do not look at all of them," he said. "Look at the path beneath your feet." Mira lowered her eyes, focusing on the ground instead of the countless faces around her. Slowly, the confusion lessened. Aaron guided her through the twisting halls, reminding her to breathe and stay steady. At one point, Mira saw a reflection of herself moving differently, almost as if the mirror version was ahead of her. Her chest tightened. "Is that me, or is it something else?" she whispered. Aaron's voice was calm. "It is only fear. Fear makes us see what is not true." She closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them again. The false reflection was gone. Step by step, they moved deeper into the hall. Hours felt like minutes, and minutes felt like hours. Yet with each turn, Mira began to trust not just Aaron, but herself. Finally, a soft light appeared ahead. The exit. Mira's heart lifted, and together they walked toward it. As the doors opened, the crowd outside gasped. Few had expected them to return so soon. Leon stood waiting, his eyes shining with quiet pride. "You have done well. The trial has shown not only your focus, but your trust in each other. This is only the beginning, but it is a strong beginning." Mira looked at Aaron. For the first time, she did not see him as only a guide or teacher. She saw him as someone walking the same path beside her. The journey ahead was still unknown, but she felt ready to face it. The success of the trial of mirrors spread quickly through the chamber. Students whispered about how Mira and Aaron had walked through the confusing halls and returned calm and steady. Some admired them, while others felt uneasy. Mira had once been a symbol of pride and strength, yet now she was changing. Aaron, once overlooked, was becoming someone others started to notice. Despite the talk around them, Mira and Aaron continued their practice. They returned to the open field each morning, where the grass carried dew and the air was fresh with the scent of earth. Mira felt her movements becoming more natural and her heart lighter than before. Still, she knew her journey was far from complete. One morning, Leon called them to his study. The room was lined with scrolls and old records, each telling the story of past trials and students. He motioned for them to sit. His voice was calm but filled with weight. "You both have taken the first steps," he said, "but growth never comes without challenges. The chamber will soon hold the trial of balance. It is not about mirrors or confusion. It is about harmony between two who must move as one. You will face this together." Mira's eyes widened. "Together?" Leon nodded. "Yes, in this trial one cannot succeed without the other. If one loses focus, both will fall." Aaron accepted the words quietly, but Mira felt nervous. She had grown used to learning from him. But working as one was different. What if she made a mistake? What if her pride still held her back? Later that day, she sat in the courtyard thinking. Aaron joined her and sat beside her, silent for a while. Finally, he spoke. "You are worried." Mira looked at him quickly. "How do you always see that?" Aaron gave a small smile. "Because I look beyond words. And I know this trial is not about blades or steps. It is about trust." The word settled in Mira's heart. Trust. She had never trusted anyone fully, not even herself. But if she wanted to succeed, she had to learn. She nodded slowly. "Then we will face it together." The day of the trial arrived. Students gathered in the large hall, where a wooden platform had been built above shallow water. The platform was long and narrow, balanced on a single beam. The rule was simple. Mira and Aaron had to cross it together step by step without falling. If either lost balance, both would fail. The hall grew quiet as they stepped onto the platform. Mira felt her heart race. The wood shifted slightly under her foot and she almost froze, but Aaron's calm voice reached her. "Do not fight the movement, feel it. Let the beam teach you." She nodded, taking another step. The platform wobbled, but Aaron moved smoothly, guiding her without pulling or forcing. His steps were steady, and slowly she matched his rhythm. The crowd watched, every eye fixed on their progress. Halfway across, Mira's foot slipped. She gasped, arms flailing for balance. For a moment she thought she would fall, but Aaron reached out and steadied her shoulder. His grip was firm yet gentle. "Breathe," he whispered. "We are not two people here. We are one." Mira inhaled deeply, calming her racing thoughts. Together they took the next step, then another. The more she trusted his rhythm, the steadier she became. Soon she was no longer afraid. She felt as though their steps had become part of the same beat, like two voices in harmony. At last they reached the other side. The crowd erupted into cheers, but Mira and Aaron stood quietly, breathing in relief. Mira looked at him, her eyes shining. "I thought I would fall." Aaron smiled gently. "We all fall. But when we trust, we rise again." Leon stepped forward, his voice carrying across the hall. "You have passed the trial of balance. You have shown that trust is stronger than pride. This is the lesson many never learn, yet you have begun to understand it." The students whispered among themselves, some in awe, some in envy. But Mira no longer cared about whispers. For the first time, she felt free of the weight of proving herself. She realized she did not have to stand alone to be strong. That night, as the stars shone above the chamber, Mira sat outside and looked at the blade resting by her side. She remembered her first words to Aaron when she had pointed it at him. She had spoken with pride then, certain of her strength. But now, after the trial, she saw that true strength was not about holding the blade at all. It was about learning when to listen, when to trust, and when to let go of pride. And though the path ahead was still long, she was no longer afraid to walk it. The days after the trial of balance felt different for Mira. She walked through the chamber halls with a lighter step. The whispers of other students no longer unsettled her. Instead of worrying about their judgment, she focused on her training and the lessons she was still learning. Aaron remained steady beside her, his calm nature unchanged even as more people began to notice him. One morning, as the two practiced in the open field, Leon approached them. His steps were slow but purposeful, and his expression carried thought. Mira and Aaron lowered their blades and bowed respectfully. Leon looked at them for a long moment before speaking. "You have walked through mirrors and you have crossed the path of balance," he said. "Both trials teach patience and trust. But now it is time for the trial of silence." Mira tilted her head, curious. "What is the trial of silence?" Leon's eyes grew serious. "It is a journey beyond the chamber walls. You must climb the mountain of stillness and remain there until you hear your own heart. Many go but return too quickly, unable to face themselves. It is not your strength or your trust in each other that will be tested this time. It is your silence." Mira and Aaron exchanged a look. Silence sounded simple, but the weight in Leon's voice told them it was not. The next day, they set out at dawn. The mountain rose in the distance, its peak hidden by clouds. The path was rocky, with streams running across and birds calling in the distance. Mira carried her blade at her side, though she wondered if she would even need it. Aaron walked ahead, steady as always, his eyes watching the trail. Hours passed, and the climb grew harder. The air thinned and the wind pressed against them. Mira felt the urge to complain, but she remembered Leon's words. This was the trial of silence. She forced herself to stay quiet, though her thoughts grew louder with every step. At times, she wanted to ask Aaron if they were on the right path. At times, she wanted to speak of her tiredness. But every time she held back. She looked at Aaron, who walked calmly without a word. His silence did not feel heavy. It felt steady, like a stream flowing without need for noise. By the time they reached a high ledge, the sun was setting. The sky turned shades of orange and red, painting the mountains in warm light. Aaron stopped and sat on a flat stone, motioning for Mira to join him. "This is where we wait," he said softly, breaking the long silence for the first time. Mira sat beside him, looking at the endless view below. Villages looked like small dots and rivers glistened like silver lines. The beauty should have filled her heart with peace, but instead, her thoughts rushed faster. She remembered her failures, her pride, her need to prove herself. The silence made them louder, echoing inside her mind. She clenched her hands. "It feels too much," she whispered without meaning to. Aaron glanced at her. "That is why it is the trial. Silence is not empty. It is full of what we hide. If we cannot face it, we will never find peace." His words sank deep. Mira closed her eyes, trying to breathe slowly. The mountain air was cold yet clear. She listened not to the wind or the birds, but to her own heart. For the first time, she realized how restless she had always been. She had wanted to win, to be admired, to be seen. But beneath it all, she simply wanted to know she was enough. Aaron remained beside her, his presence calm. He did not lecture or explain further. His silence was his teaching. Hours passed, and Mira slowly felt the noise within her mind soften. The stars began to appear, and the mountain grew quiet. At last she opened her eyes. The restless weight she carried felt lighter. She looked at Aaron, who was watching the sky. "I think I hear it now," she said softly. "My heart, it was never against me. It only wanted me to listen." Aaron gave a small nod, his calm smile appearing. "Then the trial of silence has taught you what words could not." The night passed under the stars, and when dawn returned, they began their way down the mountain. The trial had not given them a prize or applause, but Mira carried something greater. She carried a peace she had never known before. And deep inside, she understood that this journey was not about reaching the end. It was about discovering piece by piece who she truly was, and learning to walk that path without fear. When Mira and Aaron returned from the mountain, the chamber was waiting. Students had gathered in the courtyard, curious about how long they had lasted in the trial of silence. Some expected them to return quickly, but when they saw the calmness in Mira's eyes and the steady balance in Aaron's steps, whispers spread again. Something had changed, and everyone could sense it. Leon welcomed them back with a nod. His voice carried both pride and seriousness. "You have listened to your hearts, and you have walked through silence. But remember, the journey is not complete. What lies ahead is not only for you, but for the chamber itself." Mira bowed respectfully, though questions stirred in her mind. Aaron, as always, stood calmly, taking in every word. In the following days, the atmosphere inside the chamber began to shift. Some students admired Mira for her growth, while others whispered that she had lost her old fire. A few even approached Aaron, asking quietly for advice. For years, no one had paid much attention to him, but now his patience and calm nature drew others near. One evening, Mira sat by the training hall after a long session. She watched the lamps flicker on the walls, their glow soft and warm. Aaron joined her, setting down 2 cups of tea he had brought. He placed one beside her without saying much. She smiled faintly. "You always know when I need this," he replied with his usual calm. "You carry many thoughts. Tea reminds you to slow down." Mira sipped quietly. She realized how different she felt compared to when this journey began. She was no longer racing to prove herself. Instead, she wanted to understand, to grow, and to walk forward without fear of judgment. Just as she was about to speak, the heavy doors of the hall opened. Leon entered with a scroll in his hands. His expression was thoughtful, his steps deliberate. He stopped before them and unrolled the scroll on the table. "This," he began, "is the record of the chamber's oldest trial. It is called the Trial of Unity. Few have faced it, and fewer still have passed. It is not about silence, balance, or mirrors. It is about becoming more than 2 people. It is about walking as one spirit." Mira leaned closer. The scroll showed drawings of pairs standing side by side, moving in perfect harmony. The words beneath described challenges that tested not only skill but the bond between hearts. Aaron studied the scroll quietly before asking, "Why us?" Leon's eyes rested on both of them. Because the chamber has watched you. Mira, your pride has softened into strength. Aaron, your silence has become a voice that others now hear. Together you have shown trust, patience, and growth. This trial will reveal if that bond is true. Mira's chest tightened. She had faced mirrors, balance, and silence. But the thought of unity unsettled her more than all the others. To move as one spirit with Aaron meant giving up every barrier, every doubt. Could she do that? That night, sleep did not come easily. Mira lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She remembered her first meeting with Aaron, when she had pointed the blade at him, certain of her strength. He had only smiled and told her she was holding it wrong. That single moment had changed everything. And now, they stood on the edge of a trial that would test not only their skill but their connection. The next morning, the trial of unity began. The chamber hall was filled with students and masters. In the center stood a large circle marked on the ground, with patterns drawn across its surface. The rules were simple but daunting. Mira and Aaron had to move through the circle in perfect harmony, following the patterns without stepping outside. Every step had to match, every breath had to align. As they stepped into the circle, Mira's heart pounded. She looked at Aaron, who met her eyes with calm assurance. "Do not think of two," he said softly. "Think of one." The gong sounded and they began. At first, Mira's steps were too fast, while Aaron's remained steady. The mismatch caused the circle's patterns to glow faintly, warning them of their imbalance. Mira exhaled, slowing herself, letting his rhythm guide her. Soon their movements began to align. Step by step, the patterns grew more complex. Twists, turns, and sudden pauses tested their focus. Mira felt her old urge to take the lead. But each time it rose, she looked at Aaron's steady presence and reminded herself to trust. Together they adjusted, breathing as one, moving as though a single thought guided them. The chamber grew silent as the two continued. No one whispered, no one shifted. All eyes were on them as they reached the final sequence, the most difficult pattern. Mira's chest tightened, but Aaron's voice came softly. "Trust." She closed her eyes for a moment, letting go of doubt. Their final steps landed in perfect harmony. The circle glowed brightly, then faded, leaving silence in the hall. When they stepped out, the crowd erupted in applause. Leon's voice rose above it, strong and proud. "You have passed the trial of unity. Together, you are more than two. You are a lesson for all." Mira breathed deeply, her heart full. She looked at Aaron, and in his calm smile she saw the truth. They had not just passed a trial. They had become something greater than either could have been alone. After passing the trial of unity, Mira and Aaron felt a new confidence, yet they knew their journey was not over. The chamber buzzed with whispers of admiration and curiosity. Many students approached them, asking questions and seeking advice. Mira realized that people no longer looked at her as just a strong student, but as someone who had learned to grow. Aaron, too, was no longer overlooked. His quiet guidance had earned respect. One afternoon, Leon summoned them again. He led them to a hidden garden behind the chamber, a place few had entered. The sunlight filtered through the trees, casting patterns on the ground. In the center stood a small, clear pool of water, its surface perfectly still. "This is the trial of reflection," Leon said softly. "It is unlike the others. Mirrors, balance, silence, and unity tested what you could see, do, or feel together. This trial tests what you carry within your own heart. Each of you must face yourself." Mira's heart skipped. She thought of all the lessons she had learned, all the challenges she had overcome, yet this felt different. It was one thing to move with Aaron or trust him, but facing herself alone seemed harder. Aaron stood beside her. "Whatever comes, we have always learned together," he said quietly. "But this is yours. You must see it yourself." Mira nodded and stepped toward the pool. As she looked into the water, the surface shimmered and shifted. At first, she saw only her reflection, tired but determined. Then the image began to change. She saw moments of her past, times she had rushed, times she had doubted herself, times she had let pride guide her. Each memory felt heavy, like a weight pressing on her chest. For a moment, she wanted to look away. But she remembered the lessons Aaron had taught her: patience, trust, focus, and calm. She took a deep breath and met her reflection. "I see you," she whispered. "And I am ready to learn." The reflection shifted again, showing not only her mistakes but also her growth. She saw herself moving with control, trusting others, facing silence without fear, and walking in harmony. The images reminded her of everything she had learned with Aaron by her side. She realized that strength was not about perfection. It was about learning and improving. Meanwhile, Aaron stepped forward to the other side of the pool. His reflection also changed, showing moments of doubt, patience, and quiet teaching. Mira watched silently, understanding that each of them had carried their own burdens, their own fears. Together they had become stronger, yet the reflection reminded them that self-understanding was always necessary. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. Mira and Aaron continued to watch their reflections, silently acknowledging both their flaws and their progress. Leon observed quietly from a distance, his face calm. He knew the trial was working. True growth came when a person could face themselves fully. Finally, Mira knelt beside the pool. "I understand now," she said softly. "The journey is not only about learning from others. It is about seeing myself, accepting what I am, and choosing to grow." Aaron nodded beside her. "And it is about remembering that we are never truly alone. Even when facing ourselves, the lessons we share with others guide us." The surface of the pool rippled gently, and the reflections returned to normal. Mira and Aaron stood feeling lighter and more certain than before. The trial of reflection had shown them that growth was not about avoiding mistakes, but about embracing them and learning with patience and care. Leon approached and smiled. "You have passed the trial of reflection. You now carry wisdom, trust, and understanding. These are the foundations of true mastery. But remember, learning never ends. Life itself is a series of reflections." Mira looked at Aaron and smiled. "We have come far together." Aaron returned the smile, calm and steady. "And we will continue to grow. Each day is another step." That evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, the chamber felt quiet and peaceful. Mira held her blade lightly in her hand, no longer a symbol of pride but of understanding. Aaron walked beside her, their steps steady and matched. Together they had faced trials of skill, trust, silence, unity, and reflection. Though the journey ahead was still unknown, they knew they could face it, together and as individuals who understood themselves better than ever before. The sun rose over the chamber, painting the courtyard in soft gold. Mira and Aaron walked side by side, their steps calm and measured. The lessons of mirrors, balance, silence, unity, and reflection had shaped them, but a final challenge awaited, one that would combine all they had learned into a single test of heart, mind, and spirit. Leon stood at the center of the courtyard, a quiet authority in his presence. "Today," he began, "you will face the trial of understanding. It is the culmination of all the lessons you have learned. Not one skill, not one trial, but the harmony of all. This is the trial where you show not only what you can do, but who you truly are." Mira's chest tightened with anticipation. She looked at Aaron, whose calm gaze met hers. "Whatever comes, we face it together," he said softly. They stepped forward into a large hall that had been prepared for the trial. The floor was marked with patterns from the previous challenges. Mirrors lined the walls and small pools of water reflected their images. The path was intricate and demanding. Every step, every movement, and every choice mattered. At first, the hall seemed confusing. Mira felt the echoes of the mirrors, the balance beams, and the shifting patterns all at once. Her mind wanted to rush to solve everything quickly, but she remembered the lessons of silence and reflection. She breathed deeply, letting calm guide her movements. Aaron moved beside her, steady and patient, reminding her without speaking that trust was their greatest tool. They reached a section of the hall where the mirrors reflected not only their physical forms, but also moments from their past trials. Mira saw herself stumbling in the trial of balance, fighting her pride in the silence trial, and learning to trust in the unity trial. Aaron's reflection showed his quiet patience and steady guidance. The images were not there to confuse, but to remind them of how far they had come. Mira reached out and touched a mirror. It rippled gently under her hand, and she realized the truth. The trial was not about perfection. It was about understanding the lessons, accepting their journey, and walking with awareness. Aaron nodded beside her, and together they stepped through the mirror, feeling no fear, only clarity. Next came the balance beam section. It was narrow and winding, raised slightly above the ground. Mira felt the familiar tension rise, but Aaron's presence grounded her. Step by step, they moved together, matching each other perfectly. When Mira's foot wobbled, Aaron adjusted his stance, allowing them both to move smoothly. They had learned that true strength came from harmony, not speed or force. Finally, they reached the last part of the hall, a small, shallow pool reflecting the soft light from above. The water shimmered, showing their reflections clearly. Mira looked at Aaron and he smiled calmly. "One last lesson," he said. "Look at yourself and see what you have become." Mira gazed into the water. She saw herself as someone stronger, calmer, and wiser than she had ever imagined. She saw the journey etched into her posture, the growth reflected in her eyes, and the trust she now carried in her heart. Aaron's reflection showed the same quiet strength, patience, and understanding. She took a deep breath and spoke softly. "I understand now. Strength is not only in skill, it is in patience, trust, and knowing yourself." Aaron nodded. "And that is the greatest lesson of all." The hall filled with light, and the patterns, mirrors, and reflections faded. Leon stepped forward, his voice warm with pride. "You have passed the trial of understanding. You have learned the greatest lesson the chamber can teach. To grow with humility, to trust, and to walk with awareness. This is mastery not of the blade alone, but of the heart." Mira and Aaron stepped out into the courtyard. The students who had gathered watched in awe. Some cheered quietly, some nodded with respect. Mira felt a calm joy settle inside her. She no longer needed to prove herself to anyone. She had learned, grown, and understood. She looked at Aaron and smiled. "We began with a blade, and now we walk forward with everything we have learned." Aaron's calm smile returned. "Yes, and this is only the beginning. Every day will bring new lessons, but now we are ready." The sun shone brightly as they walked together through the chamber gates. Mira felt light and free, carrying the blade as a symbol of her journey, not pride. Aaron's steady presence reminded her that growth was not a solo path. It was shared, patient, and full of understanding. And though the path ahead was unknown, they were ready to face it, together wiser and stronger than ever. The chamber stood silent and peaceful, a witness to two students who had learned that true mastery came not from power, but from trust, patience, and understanding.